Valencia County 911. Where's your emergency?
I just wanted to call you, tell you that I paired.
Sheriff's office, anybody inside make expression zone?
So is there 4 people dead?
Yeah,
Who is that in the background?
I think that's my dad. He's gargling.
He's gargling?
Yeah.
Are you willing to help him right now?
No.
When 16-year-old Diego Leyva called 911 shortly after 3 a.m., officers had no idea what they were walking into. At that hour, the streets of Belen in New Mexico are silent. Most of the town was fast asleep, and any call at that time of night is rarely good. But even still, what came through the phone line was something far worse than anyone could have imagined. The caller identified himself as Diego Leyva. His voice was eerily flat and calm. But that is when he came in with the punchline, saying, "I have just murdered my entire family." He then began to make strange statements claiming that apparently he was possessed, and that he was at home if officers wanted to get him. The Leyva family were well known in the community, and Diego was one of 3 siblings. His father, Leonardo, worked locally in tech, with his mother, Adriana, working as a respected firefighter. And his 2 brothers, Adrian and Alexander, were merely teenagers, not much older or younger than Diego himself. So, when officers arrived at the family's home, which was located at the edge of town, they proceeded cautiously. But even still, they were not prepared for what they would discover, because inside the home was a scene of unimaginable horror. And as the investigation deepened, one question grew louder and louder. How was a 16-year-old capable of doing such a thing? And why? Welcome back to Coffeehouse Crime, folks. My name is Adrian, and today we're looking at the story of Diego Leyva and how his unimaginable actions annihilated an entire family. Before we begin, if you want to see more True Crime Weekly, then please do consider subscribing. And now, with that said, please grab yourself a coffee and let's caffeinate while we investigate. This is the case of Diego Leyva. Today's case takes us to a small and dusty town which is found right in the heart of New Mexico. I'm talking about Belen, which is home to just over 7,000 people, and is found sitting quietly south of Albuquerque and near the Rio Grande. As you can probably tell, not much happens out here. Belen is the kind of place that clings to life on the edge of the desert, with little more than the river and long stretches of highway keeping it connected to the rest of the world. The nearby mountains do offer spectacular views, but on the flip side, the desert is also scattered with old and abandoned bomb shelters, which is a little creepy but kind of cool all the same, right? If fast food and beer is your kind of thing, then you'll be alright, but if you're looking for more out of life, then maybe this isn't the place for you. However, for some people, they did seem to want to call this home, and for the Leyva Bencomo family, it was everything. 35-year-old Adriana Bencomo, also known as Andy, lived here with her 42-year-old husband, Leonardo Leyva, and together they raised 3 children, that being 16-year-old Diego, 14-year-old Alexandra, and another 16-year-old named Adrian. Despite there being only 2 years between the 3 of them, they all attended different schools, with Diego attending Belen High School, Alexandra Belen Middle, and Adrian the School of Dreams Academy in nearby Los Lunas. Home videos taken by Leonardo show how devoted he was to his family. Both he and Adriana created a loving environment for their children, taking them on holidays, out to climbing gyms, over to virtual shooting ranges, and even go-kart tracks. They quite evidently loved their children, and they really did try to make them feel special. But the affection didn't stop there, because as you can see through dozens and dozens of pictures of the 2, Leonardo and Adriana were deeply in love with each other. And I have to say, it is very cute to see the family of 2 turn into 5. Together, the family of 5 lived southeast of Belen, with Leonardo's father, that being the children's grandfather, who stayed in a separate building on the property. And together, the combined family of 6 ran a tight ship that seemed to be inseparable. Now, speaking of the property, it was located in a place called Camilo Escondido, and honestly, it's unlike anywhere I've ever covered before. Hidden deep in the desert and southeast of Belen, Camilo Escondido is a secluded compound which is made up of a handful of residential plots. It's remote, quiet, and far from any nearby roads, with nothing more than echoes from a nearby train line occasionally disturbing the silence. And it was right there in that small cluster of homes that something absolutely horrific would take place. Because one night, and out of the blue, police were called to one of those properties, and what they found was beyond anything they were prepared for. At 3:30 a.m. on December the 14th, 2024, the Valencia County Sheriff's Office received a chilling 911 call.
Valencia County 911, where's your emergency?
Valencia 911, caller, can you hear me?
Hi, miss. I just wanted to call you, tell you that I killed my parents.
I'm sorry?
Well, I wanted to call you, tell you that I killed my parents.
You called 911 and said you killed your family. Is that true?
Mm-hmm.
Where are you at right now?
I'm in the kitchen
Okay, how did you kill them?
with a pistol.
Where are they at?
They're laying in the ground dead.
They're laying in the ground?
Yeah,
Who did you kill?
I killed my whole parents.
Your parents and who else? I'm here with you. Just talk to me, okay?
My whole family.
Your mom and dad?
Yeah,
Who else?
my brothers.
How many brothers do you have?
2.
Okay. When did this happen?
It just happened
How long ago? Like 5 minutes ago? 3 minutes ago?
like 10 minutes ago.
You don't know?
I'll leave it.
Who are you talking to?
I'm here.
Who are you talking to?
I'm not talking to no one. It's just my parents' dad.
Who is that in the background?
I think that's my dad.
What is he doing?
He's gargling.
He's gargling?
Yeah.
Are you willing to help him right now?
No.
So is there 4 people dead?
Yes.
What made you do this?
I don't know. Something bad spirit possessed me.
You said something what?
Something bad possessed me.
Has this happened to you before where you've wanted to kill somebody?
No.
Are you willing to step outside and talk to my deputies when they get there?
Yes, no. I walk up with my bird.
Are you holding your bird?
Yeah.
If your bird's in your hands, I don't want you to take it outside. It's
Yeah.
dark out there and they might think that it's something else. And you don't want your bird to get hurt, do you?
It isn't far away, miss.
You don't want your bird to get hurt, do you?
Yeah.
Okay, can you put it away for me?
I don't think so. It just flies away.
Okay, well, just leave it inside.
The dispatcher on the other end of the line could not believe what she was hearing, that this young man had just murdered his entire family. While still on the line, deputies raced to the crime scene, with echoes of distant trains cutting through the pitch-black desert at night. As they approached the property, officers then left their vehicles before then sprinting toward the front gate.
Have him jump the fence. Let's go, let's go.
And then, eventually, and out of the darkness, Diego emerged. Although he was cooperating with officers and calmly raised his hands, he, quite evidently, was extraordinarily drunk. Despite the horror of his actions, which at this point in time was still merely assumed, he offered no resistance whatsoever. In fact, the only thing that he seemed to be remotely concerned about at the time was the small pet bird that he cradled in his hand.
Can I find your bird? I'll take your bird. Let me see. I got your bird. I got him. I got him. I got his bird. Hands on your back.
It was at this stage that officers then gently took the bird, placed Diego under arrest, and then ushered him to the back of a squad car to receive medical treatment. But the hard part was still yet to come, because now they would have to divert their attention to what was inside the home.
Yeah, let's go. Let's go.
Given his drunken state and the lack of information that he could provide, officers could not rule out the possibility of another suspect or even more danger waiting in the dark. And so, once again, they sprinted towards the main building of the property, but this time with their weapons drawn and clearing every corner as if their lives depended on it. As you can see from the satellite image, the property was huge, comprising of a main house, a second building, 2 large sheds, several trucks, and a few scattered outbuildings. There was a lot of ground to cover here, and they would begin with the family's main home. With this happening only 11 days before Christmas, the house was already wrapped in festive lights and decorations, which seemed to do nothing more than add an eerie feeling to this already disturbing scene.
See anything on this end? It just looks like a desk.
Preparing for the worst, police officers then pushed open the front door and immediately were met with blood on the floor. No one answered their calls, and so, room by room and corner by corner, they crept through the house.
It's me, you, and me. Yeah, I'm gonna cut right.
I'm on your wrist.
And then, in the hallway, that is where they found them, each murdered by a single gunshot to the head.
1080 on the...
3 people, 4 people.
I'm on you. Yep, I'm on you. Oh.
Need one more.
I'm with you.
4, I got 4 people.
1, 2, 3, 4.
1 in the bathroom, 2, 3 in the hallway. Alright, hold what you got in here, and then let's start. Turn this side real quick.
Let me hold over here. Let me hold this off. We're going to back to back, okay? This is actually clear. We're good.
This was an incredibly vulnerable moment for officers. With 3 bodies now discovered in the hallway, they were standing in what was effectively a kill zone. They were exposed from multiple angles, with no idea if the threat was truly over. Every doorway and corner felt like it could potentially hide another gunman, and truthfully, they didn't know if this was over yet. Now, thankfully, no one else appeared to be inside this building, at least not at first. But that is when they found a 4th body in an adjoining bedroom. Once the house was secured, police officers began the heartbreaking task of identifying the victims. They soon confirmed that the 3 bodies in the hallway belonged to Adriana, Adrian, and Alexandra, with the 4th body in the bedroom being the father, Leonardo. Based on the crime scene, they believed that Leonardo must have stayed up with Diego that night to possibly share a few drinks, while the rest of the family had already gone to their own separate bedrooms to fall asleep. And for whatever reason, motive or madness that may have taken a hold, that allowed Diego to kill them one by one. As you can hear through this body cam footage, officers were quite alarmed by the amount of blood they found on the walls, floors, and ceilings. They also observed a broken table and shattered glass in the living room, with numerous spent shell casings and unspent cartridges found throughout the entire dwelling. And at the center of it all, they found a silver and black bloody Ruger pistol on the dining room table. As if the news wasn't devastating enough already, it also arrived with a cloud of confusion. You see, officers knew that 6 people lived in the property, and with 1 arrested and 4 dead, well, that meant that 1 was still missing. And that would be the grandfather, also named Leonardo. So, with him still missing, did that mean that Leonardo had also been murdered, or had he merely fled? Or, in an even more disturbing twist, could he potentially be an accomplice? Taking a step back and looking at the entire area, the property itself only seemed to make things worse. Because, you see, this wasn't just one single structure, but an area with multiple buildings. And so, with that in mind, investigators were left with a new priority. They would have to secure not just that main building, but the entire perimeter. And they would have to do it inch by inch in the dark. With Diego still handcuffed and in the back of a squad car, officers now began to sweep the rest of the property. It was the kind of scene that haunts every first responder, a vast and rural plot of land dotted with multiple buildings and surrounded by desert in the middle of the night. The officers really had to be smart here, because one wrong move, and that genuinely could be the end. They decided to first storm the garage, a cramped and cluttered space which was filled with scattered appliances and countless blind spots. Every corner felt like a potential threat, but thankfully, after a tense sweep, it was cleared with no signs of life. Next up was the family RV, a place that quite easily could conceal an extra gunman. The officers approached with caution, knowing that at any moment it could turn into a deadly standoff. But thankfully, once again, they found nothing. it was just another empty shell. As the officers approached the second structure, which was positioned towards the northwest corner of the property, they spotted something just outside of the doorway, that being an extra walking stick. With this in mind, they began to wonder if this could belong to Diego's grandfather. It was in that moment that they announced their presence, but unfortunately, once again they were met with silence, and so slowly and carefully they pushed inside, clearing the hallway and then going room by room.
Sheriff's office, anybody inside make expression zone? Sheriff's office! Is that me today or something behind that door? I don't know, I can't tell. Sheriff's office! La policía! Somos la policía! ¿Alguien está adentro?
It only took a few seconds for them to realize that they actually were not alone, and then, from one of the back bedrooms came the sound of movement. Officers had the feeling that this likely was Diego's grandfather, but with him failing to respond to their calls, they were not quite sure. But then, after several tense moments, he finally appeared, albeit shirtless and also entirely clueless as to what was going on.
¿Alguien más vive aquí en esta casa? ¿Alguien más vive en esta casa?
No.
No. No.
Allá sí, allá vive el hijo mío, la esposa y mis 3 nietos.
Okay. ¿Listo?
Thankfully, Leonardo was not only in seemingly good health, but he was also unarmed, meaning there was no further casualties. However, yeah, there was one new problem to this story, and that is that he had no idea of what had just happened only a few minutes prior in the building next to him. He had no clue that his entire family had just been murdered. Of course, this meant that the officers had a horrible task ahead of them. Not only would they have to handcuff Leonardo for his own safety, but they would also have to tell him the devastating news. And how do you even begin to explain something like that to a wise old man? How do you look at him dead in the eye and tell him that in one evening he's lost 2 generations of his family? And even worse, it's not like this was some sort of mere accident. It was cold-blooded murder by your own flesh and blood. This must have been a heartbreaking moment for him, and in all honesty, we can only imagine how this must have felt for him. And soon enough, others would learn of this nightmare too.
Good evening. We start with breaking news. New Mexico State Police are investigating a homicide in Valencia County with a 16-year-old male in custody. News 13's Bella Lage is live in the Newsplex with what we know so far. Bella?
That's right. Earlier today, state police say they were starting the investigation at a rural home southeast of Belen. According to the agency, the 16-year-old told them he killed his family. State police say they were alerted of the incident around 3:30 this morning at a home near Highway 47 southeast of Belen and its Rio communities. Police say the teen, identified as Diego Leyva, told dispatchers he killed his family. When agents arrived, they say Leyva walked out of the home, quote, extremely intoxicated and surrendered without incident. NMSP says 4 people were found dead in the home with a gun located on the kitchen table. Now, the Office of the Medical Examiner is working to give a positive identification to the victims. NMSP says Leyva is being held at the hospital for detox and will then be booked into a juvenile detention facility. That's all. Back to you.
All right, thanks, Bella. NMSP says Leyva is facing 4 counts of murder. They also say the incident is still under investigation.
By sunrise, half the town knew what had happened, and believe me, it was sure to horrify most of them. 4 lives, all from the same family, had now been lost, and even worse, it was from one of their own. Leonardo, Adriana, and their entire family, including Diego, were all well loved in their own groups and communities. Adriana was only 35 when she lost her life. Since 2007, she had proudly served as a volunteer firefighter with the Rio Community's fire department, dedicating over a decade of her life to protecting and helping helping those around her. She wasn't merely a firefighter, but also a mother, a wife, and in her spare time, even a bit of a farmer. Determined and full of life, she was known for her humor and her initiative. Adriana and Leonardo were deeply connected and a team in every sense. Not only as a family, but professionally too, as Adriana would often join Leonardo in his construction jobs. In the years before his death, Leonardo worked as an electrician and data center technician. He was known to be hardworking and always pushing himself to grow, even taking steps to build new skills in project management, as shown on his LinkedIn. And together, alongside Leonardo's father, they built a life centered around their family and their community. Following his performance, Diego was then charged with 4 counts of first-degree murder. However, before he could be arrested, he urgently required medical treatment. But roughly 24 hours later, and after what can only be described as probably the worst hangover imaginable, he was medically cleared and then booked. Back at the crime scene, officers then began their forensic sweep of the property, where they were then able to confirm that Diego had in fact acted alone. Now obviously, the next big mystery was to try and determine a motive behind Diego's actions. I mean, it's not normal for someone to go and murder their entire family. To address the elephant in the room here, Diego was extremely drunk, and I mean like to an extraordinary level. And of course, with this being New Mexico, he was well below the legal drinking age. Now, it is still not quite clear why he was so stupidly drunk, but the leading theory here is that while the rest of his family went to bed, Diego and his father stayed up to share a few drinks. It is also worth noting here that during the 911 call, he told the dispatcher that something bad had possessed him, and when asked if he ever had any violent urges towards his family before, he answered no immediately. And this is where the real mystery begins, because Diego's case is still yet to go to trial, and so a lot of these questions are still unanswered. However, what we do know is that according to all of those who knew Diego, he never exhibited any red flags, and this was all just one massive surprise. There was no history of violence, no strange behavior, no red flags, and no medication, which quite honestly makes this story even more mysterious and chilling. Now, of course, it is very clear that Diego was not literally possessed here, but there are many questions on maybe if he suffered a psychotic break or has a mental illness. As a personal side note, I've seen so much footage of Diego's arrest from multiple angles, and the main thing that I keep coming back to is I don't think I've ever seen anyone this drunk before. And so honestly, I don't know what to believe here. Is it possible that maybe Diego never had any violent inclination in the past, but getting this drunk pushed him right over the edge? It's quite hard to believe. Well, I'll be very interested to see where this one goes. One of the most disturbing details that came from this case was after Diego was arrested. When being interviewed the day after the murders, he once again told agents that a voice had told him to kill his family, and his language suggested that he had been overtaken by an evil force or voice. Many people within the community were surprised by Diego's actions. A former teacher of his said, "I would never have thought that something like this would happen, that Diego would be capable of doing something like this." In the wake of this tragedy, the Belen Consolidated Schools District posted a statement on Facebook to announce that additional counseling services would be made to students in need. In this statement, they said, "We are deeply saddened and shocked by the tragic event involving the killing of his family by a BHS student this past Saturday. Our hearts go out to the victims, their loved ones, and everyone impacted by this devastating loss." The emotional toll seemed to ripple through multiple schools, with Diego being a student at Belen High School, Alexandra attending Belen Middle School, and Adrian at the School of Dreams Academy. All 3 schools were deeply affected. In response, a GoFundMe campaign, which was titled Diego Leyva, was launched to help cover funeral expenses. Within days, it had raised over $6,000, a small comfort towards the family in the shadow of an unfathomable loss. As for Leonardo, he has remained quiet and out of the public eye. With this video being posted in June of 2025, the case has not yet gone to trial. After indictment, the next steps include pre-trial hearings, psychological evaluations, and then the trial itself. No date has been publicly announced yet, which is not unusual given the complexity of this case, but I'm sure that eventually we will be informed of the next steps. If Diego's case goes to trial, then he'll be tried as an adult, And in New Mexico, each count of first-degree murder carries a possible life sentence. It is worth noting here that there is no death penalty in this state. However, we are still talking about very serious time. It is also worth saying here that every single one of his victims was shot once and in the head, and that kind of precision could be used by the prosecution to claim that this was not some drunk, out-of-control moment. I mean, when you put it that way, it kind of sounds like this was some sort of cold, calculated execution. On the flip side, Diego's defense will likely lean into his mental state, because even from the very beginning, he was claiming that he was possessed. So, a psychotic break is their most likely angle, or of course, he was so drunk that he didn't know what he was doing. But whether anyone actually buys that, I guess we will just have to wait and see. As always, I'll keep you posted on anything that happens either in a pinned comment below or on social media. But my gut feeling is saying that Diego will go down for a very, very long time. On that note, what do you think will happen here? Whatever your thoughts may be, I'd love to know in a comment down below, and if you found this video interesting, please do consider subscribing too. It really does help the channel out. And on that note, I think we've pretty much come to the end of this video. Thank you so much for watching today, folks. I really do appreciate you being here. Of course, I'll be back in likely a few days or a week's time. Until that moment arrives though, remember to look after yourselves, look after each other, and of course, stay curious. Thank you, and goodbye.